Hey there, welcome back to True North Reviews. My name is Ryan, and today we are reviewing the new Selena Gomez record, Rare. This is the third studio album from the American singer and Disney child star actress, now turned adult, Selena Gomez. She is now by herself. She's no longer a part of the scene, as that was her band supporting her in the late 2000s and early 2010s. Yes, it is hard to believe that she was once backed by a rock band image and aesthetic. She's now obviously a pop star, someone who has always had memorable singles over the past decade. I think back to Love You Like a Love Song, as cheesy as it is. I mean, humble beginnings, right? And then to her more recent pop showcasing, I think of her 2015 record, Revival. She had a few big hits from there, including Same Old Love, Good For You, and Hands to Myself. Selena, with her collection of hit songs, she hasn't been the most transparent or relatable lyricist. She's usually had her albums packaged for her by big-time producers and songwriters, which has been a disappointment for me in the past because Selena's personal life is the thing that people talk about the most with her music, and it seems to be the thing that people are most concerned with, yet she continues to shy away from incorporating personal details into her songs. I don't know if that's due to pressure from her label or she just hasn't felt comfortable dropping an emotional bomb. Either way, we have to admit that it has been a tough road to get to this album here for Selena. She was diagnosed with lupus in 2013. That led to a kidney transplant in 2017 because of complications of lupus nephritis. She's even had tumultuous relationships blown up in the public eye with Justin Bieber and The Weeknd. And now all these events, putting them together, building them along with the promise of her previous album, Selena has decided to write a personal record front to back, and this has got to be her most mature yet with this album here, Rare. Obviously, I'm happy about that, but where this personal insight originated was with the co-lead singles for the record, Lose You to Love Me and Look at Her Now, both very different singles from one another, one more serious as a piano ballad full of larger-than-life vocal arrangements, and the other being a fun jam with a catchy little hook. Not only do these songs contrast each other well for their first-person, third-person perspective of storytelling, I feel like Selena, when she released these singles, she was also standing up for herself, making a genuine artistic statement, maybe even turning a few heads of critics along the way too. And that's really when my high expectations snowballed for the full length of this record. We knew that Selena Gomez wasn't wanting to focus too much of her time on Justin Bieber. She was hinting at songs that were cheerful and danceable. Yet even with that tease, Selena was still able to convey her message of vulnerability and pain, all bundled up in a ball that could also be interpreted as self-empowering and confident. Dance Again is a track that fills that tall order on this album with its groovy bass line. It balances on the edge of emotionally breaking down, yet it still makes you feel like you're in control of your emotions. Rare, as another example, is the title track and intro cut. It's a straight-up injection of self-love, and it's Selena's favorite song on the record, according to her Instagram Live. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't one of my favorites as well. The first 6 songs on this album actually are incredible. Ring is easily one of the best songs here on Rare. It's funny because with that song I'm getting some Camila Cabello vibes with the instrumental, the strings, the auxiliary percussion, and even Selena's vocals blended with the backup vocalist. It's just screaming Camila Cabello. With this track, I love the descending chord progression in the chorus. Lyrically, it's also interesting too because we have this double meaning of Ring, being in control yet restrained at the same time. You have like the ring on your finger, but also letting a phone ring. Moving on from there, a song that I didn't ever think was going to click with me or be memorable was Vulnerable, and I'm glad I ended up being wrong about that. This track has like this smooth and soft R&B instrumental. It's nice to see this track being produced by John Bellion. Vulnerable is also a track that has a decent chorus, and lyrically it's as strong as you can get because it's the crux of the album's narrative. And then even if this record isn't as strong in its second half, I mean, it's hard to sustain the quality of the second half when you're comparing it to the relative highs of the first. But People You Know is a track on here that kind of acts as like this turning point. Some of the songs in the second half just don't relatively seem as interesting or as compelling. And I guess what my main issue with the song People You Know specifically is, and what takes me out of my enjoyment of the track is the alien processed vocals heard underneath Selena's melody in the chorus. They're a bit odd, a bit peculiar. Selena is close to leaning on these processed vocals like a crutch because, Selena, her vocals, in my eyes, she hasn't ever been that noticeable. She hasn't had the striking or distinct vocals. They tend to lack some kind of power or oomph behind them. Either way, there still ends up being a catchy chorus on the song People You Know once that floods in, and the bridge even adds a nice touch to the track too. Speaking more towards that vocal processing on Rare, the better example of that processing, in my opinion, comes on the track Let Me Get Me, which sure, you could argue that the melody is pretty grating. I'd agree with you on that. However, looking past that grating melody, you'll notice that there's the deep vocal processing, very reminiscent to Same Old Love from Revival. I ended up enjoying Let Me Get Me, but one song that I don't enjoy on this album is called Crowded Room with Black. On this song, Selena goes back and forth between this limp and thin, seductive singing and breathy falsetto. In addition to that, Black takes a while to get introduced to this song, and even by the time he doesn't add anything to the intimate feeling that Selena was trying to convey in the lyrical sentiment of being the only people in a crowded room. And really, just to drive home that point, there is no vocal chemistry with Black either. The feature for sure sounds phoned in and forced, as if he and Selena weren't together during the recording process. And come on, if you were in a crowded room and you had a connection with someone, I'd hope you'd at least physically be there, maybe mentally too. I also would hope that you'd have a pretty solid conversation or closeness over top of loud or a chaotic noise around you, but this song is missing all of those elements to make it interesting. However, picking up for that shortcoming, that little spot on the album that I don't like so much, this record does end on a solid note. We have a couple songs called Fun and Cut You Off. These feel like they are influenced by Taylor Swift sonically. I think that because we have those bright pastel hooks, the swelling summery guitars, the sporadic vocal inflections. The song Cut You Off especially is claustrophobic and intimately produced. The vocal delivery on there even reminds me a bit of the intro from Never Be the Same by Camila Cabello. And really, it's no surprise that Selena would mirror her music after Taylor Swift and Camila Cabello, because I think those fan bases overlap, and I would imagine that a lot of those fans supporting these two tracks on Selena's album, Fun and Cut You Off, they would be fans of Taylor Swift or Camila, especially if you enjoyed the most recent output from Taylor on Lover. And then after those two songs are over, we clear the way for the finale, which is a track called A Sweeter Place featuring Kid Cudi. It's a nice contrast to the two previous tracks. We actually have some expansive atmosphere. It matches the lyrical content that Selena is talking about, how she's transcended life but also feels simultaneously more rooted in the ground. Kid Cudi does his usual long, drawn-out embellishments on specific syllables, his humming and hawing too. It's just a great closing to this record. So overall, for Rare by Selena Gomez, I am pleasantly surprised with how danceable and fun this album is, and just how many guitar-led tracks we even have on here. Selena, it really does feel like she's just letting loose and having fun, but she's also more personal than she's ever been before. These songs actually feel like they're connected to her life, which I had as an expectation coming into this record. Yet it's a weird formulaic kind of personal songwriting, because you look at the track lengths, they're all hovering around 3 to 3.5 minutes, so you're like, oh yeah, she's trying to capitalize on the single and just write that over and over again so she can get some hits. Not trying to nitpick, but yeah, it is a mainstream pop record, so it's gonna live and die by its nature of what it is. But brushing that aside, if we look at the production, there are some odd tricks, gimmicks, and processing that makes this album sound fresh, and it's a treat for the ears. Again, it's great to hear Selena grow and mature as a songwriter too. Rare is definitely an artistic leap forward into the territory of respect and credibility. And then if we look at the context of this album, we can't listen to it without recognizing that this album has the sonic inspiration from an artist like Taylor Swift, also the lyrical lyrical inspiration from Lizzo or Ariana Grande. And then if we're comparing Selena to those artists and what their recent output has been, I mean, we had Taylor Swift with Lover, an album I thought was a tad bit bloated despite being well produced. You look at Ariana Grande's Thank You Next, that was very well produced as well, and then her vocals absolutely stole the spotlight there. Ariana definitely has one of the most charismatic voices that is hard to rival. So yeah, if you're comparing those two albums specifically, Lover by Taylor Swift and Thank You Next by Ariana Grande, if you're looking at those two and Selena Gomez's Rare, yeah, you could make the argument that Selena might fall short when it comes to her vocal talent, but she's definitely not laying us down with the tunes on Rare. She's definitely not laying us down with the personal songwriting either, or even the production for that matter. For me, I love 7 songs on this album, Rare. There's one that I'm kind of on the fence with if I do love it or just like it, relatively speaking. You'll see those songs listed down below along with my least favorites. There are a couple that I feel like are skippable in the grand scheme of things, and then there are a few songs that are Taylor Swift inspired, definitely fun to jam along with. I wouldn't be opposed to hearing them. I just might not go out of my way to hear them as much as the songs on the front half of this album, because the first 6, they're hard to ignore. With all that being said, I'm feeling a 7 out of 10 on this new Selena Gomez record. I'd love to hear from you now though. Sound off down below in the comments. Let me know what you think of this music. Agree or disagree, I'm here to engage with you guys. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe if you're new in town. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a rockin' day.